Hey everyone, and welcome back to Movies for Thoughts. Today we're going to be talking about the 1997 Disney film Hercules and the common format for adventure in literature and film known as the hero's journey. So, a brief summary of the movie Hercules. It's about Hercules, the well known mythological figure, except in this version, Hades, the lord of the underworld, has a plan to take over the entire world, right? Olympus in the universe. So he makes Hercules human, but Hades' minions didn't make Hercules drink the whole potion. They made him human. There was one drop left, and he ended up going to Olympus because he was down to earth because he was mostly mortal now, but he still had some supernatural abilities, right? So that part, the intro's over. Now we know the backstory, and we find Hercules with his adoptive parents, even though he doesn't know that yet. In this little Greek village, he's not an outcast, but he's kind of like how do you say, he's not accepted because of his supernatural strength that makes him seem destructive, you know. So one day he goes to his parents and they tell him, "We have something to tell you," and they explain to him that they found him with a medal that has a sign of the gods on it, and he figures out that it must have to do something with Olympus. So he goes to the temple of Zeus, which is the call to adventure, the first step in the hero's journey. Now, what do you think about the second part, which was the refusal of the call? Because in Harry Potter and Percy Jackson, all these heroes, they at first were not accepting this idea that they're heroes. Like, what? I'm a wizard, like as Harry Potter said. But I didn't really see that with Hercules. What do you think?
I think in terms of the refusal of the call, like he didn't refuse the call because he always felt or knew that he was different. Like he didn't match or fit in with the other children, with the other people, and understanding that he may have something to do with Olympus clicked in his head as to why he was so different. So when he put pieces things together and realizes who he is and where he's from, then that's why I feel like it's not more of a refusal but of an acceptance of who he is. And now he yearns for Olympus. He yearns to be with his people, the people that actually match him and who he is, and fits in more with him and his strength, his personality, and everything.
Exactly. So we kind of we reduce the 11 step hero's journey. We reduce it by one, and we go straight from the call to adventure. Skip refusal of the call because he wants it, and we go straight to the meeting with the mentor. What do you think about Phil? This Phil Octites, played by voiced by Danny DeVito. What do you think about him?
I think Phil is honestly. I think he's a good mentor. Because I feel like he breaks the mold of what a regular mentor is. A regular mentor is in other hero's journey, just makes the hero realize, come to acceptance of who they are and pursue their strength and their destiny, their preconceived destiny. But Phil outright rejected him when they first met.
Yeah.
He didn't want anything to have to do with another hero because he felt like there's no sense or meaning to heroes to begin with. But then, after further convincing and seeing who Hercules truly is, it wasn't necessarily becoming a mentor it wasn't necessarily being a mentor to train his strength or to grow his strength, but to make sure that he becomes not just he lives to be a hero, because the other heroes he trains just died and never lived up to their full potential. He wanted to see his full potential, and I feel like that's what made his personality more relatable or understandable, how he pushed Hercules to train so that he would be in practicality too strong to lose,
Yeah, I feel what you're saying. He's I was about to say he's a down-to-earth guy, but he's actually a satyr, half goat. So that phrase doesn't really work out well. But yeah, so Phil, he's trained like Achilles, Perseus, Odysseus, all these guys who ended up breaking in the end. And like you just said, he just wanted to make sure that never happens to Hercules. So he makes sure he makes sure to like train him well enough so that it doesn't have to happen.
Mhm.
And Hercules does end up getting trained very well. Now he's very strong physically. Now he has all these big like biceps and muscles, and he's ready to become a hero so that he can rejoin his father on Olympus. And he wants to get out into the real world, right? He
Yeah.
wants to go into the playing field, and the first playing field was supposed to be Thebes, right? But I think they stopped a bit before. So this is like kind of the crossing the threshold in the hero's journey. So like, like I don't know, like how would you put the first steps Hercules took to becoming a hero? The initial things, like how would you phrase them? Like, tell me about them.
Um, the initial steps, I would say, in his initial steps, I feel like he wanted to more or less like jump into the role of a hero. Like he had this like conceived notion of what a hero is and felt like he already, because of who he was, he could already consider himself a hero, and that he didn't need, right, like these trainings or allies, or necessarily like he could like figure things out on his own. But I feel like Phil's training in itself wasn't just a training of strength, but it's a training of endurance. To understand that he had, like, being a hero isn't necessarily about defeating enemies, but overcoming challenges of yourself. And I think his initial steps in terms of becoming a hero, I would say, is just discovering himself, honestly, as a person. Yeah.
Yeah, so discovering himself as a person. I would also say that it's actually slowing down a bit, because Hercules wanted to like butt head first into the challenge, but like he even says, just like Phil taught me, like we need to stop and like analyze the situation, what's
Yeah,
going on,
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
that while it strategically helps in the battle itself, that's also like symbolic of his own personal journey into becoming like a fully fledged hero. That brings us to the fifth step of the hero's journey, which is like tests, allies, and enemies. As for tests, we get we got a few tests at the beginning, not as big as what's gonna come next. But so he needs to fight a Cyclops, is harassing this girl Meg, which we'll talk about soon. Then he has to fight the three-headed beast, which eventually has like 15 heads, and enemies. So, like, how do you phrase this? Like who do you think Hercules' enemies are? It's not very clear at first. Sometimes.
I think Hercules, like on like other heroes' journeys, where like there's a clear cut like enemy in itself, Hercules didn't even know who his enemy was. Like his enemy is obviously Hades, but he doesn't know that. He's just fighting these monsters that threaten the people and threaten Meg and everything, and he believes that he's putting himself to the test, and that he's like accomplishing like what it means to be a hero. But I feel like this was a great way they took the approach, where it's like your enemy in itself isn't showing himself. He's not the one that you're fighting against. You're fighting against like, and I feel like that's what the test, like that's like the enemies quote unquote he fought in itself. They were the tests. They were the test of his strength. And I feel like it was kind of like a jab to see like where his weakness was and how to like best like defeat him. That's what Hades wanted. But I feel like the journey more or less progressed when like later on Hades shows himself, and then Hercules figures out who he really is fighting against.
Yeah, that's true. So you'd kind of like call Hades like the final boss in like video game terminology, because he's like this chess player moving these bits and pieces on the chessboard. And I don't know if I recall correctly, but I think they even showed that in the movie. See, that phrase was just because it's probably my subconscious, but Hercules and Phil and Pegasus, his flying horse, they're all actual figures on the chessboard, but they haven't gotten to the final boss yet. And so you know more about like the big challenge more than me, because I don't necessarily recall exactly. But like, what would you say about step number 6 in the hero's journey, like approaching the challenge, and step number 7, the ordeal?
As we saw, as you could like in the like the movie, like it kind of set itself up as like the big challenge of like I said, it wasn't what Phil's training wasn't as training of strength, but about like understanding himself and
endurance.
understanding like endurance and like I would say priority, because he is trying to fill the role of a hero, and a hero is supposed to protect the people, protect the world from monsters and dangers. But then at the same time, he wants to protect Meg, and both of those are in danger, he can't be at two places at once. That's the real challenge of the situation he's now coming up to, is that he has to pick which does he protect, the people or Meg, because he could either choose not to fight and abandon his strength for 24 hours and save Meg, or he could protect the people but abandon her and leave her to her own demise. So he's dealing with this internal turmoil where he has to discover like what to him is more important.
Like a dilemma.
Yes.
I know what you're saying. And so what does he end up doing?
So going through the show, like he realizes that he has to find the middle ground. So what he does is he goes and he tries to save Meg before this huge war or battle occurs to begin with. And so he goes to Hades' tower, and he goes through and he's trying to find her and save her. And obviously Hades knows that it's in his lair, like it's his lair, so he knows he's there. But then he kind of tricks him into going into this I would say it's like this huge open like green portal that's basically a collection of souls, and like takes souls, and the longer you stay there, the more you age. And so he goes there in order to try and save Meg, and like he goes through this huge like undergoing because he loses his strength. He can't fight back, and he doesn't know how he's gonna escape, and he feels like in himself. To me, throughout the thing, it wasn't necessarily him like losing his physical strength, but losing his will to fight.
Yeah.
Because now he kind of feels like he's a failure of a hero. He could even save the person he loves the most. Like he disappointed her, but then he like Omega helps him like get out of the ordeal, and then they were able to leave I guess I would call it a soul portal, and they were able to defeat Hades like fighting the back against it because he no longer had that leverage of Meg on the line. And to me, this kind of shows like how like overcoming the challenge isn't necessarily about having to always like play the hero or be the hero, but understand that like there are people around you, going back to step 5 of the hero's journey, which are allies that are there to support you the most. Especially with Phil, because we see Phil come back even after they fought to try and support Hercules.
So it really shows you your true friends. And like just a thing about what you said about Hercules losing his will to fight. Like right now, from beginning of step 4, right now we're at step 7 and eventually step 9. All of this is the unknown, the special world, the latter half of the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. Essentially, while yes, it may be literally in the plot like an unknown world, like the wizarding world, mm-hmm. the Camp Half-Blood, the underworld, Olympus, like while it may literally be like an unknown world, it's also unknown and special because our hero is being taken out of his comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So it's also special in that sense. Mm-hmm. And so eventually the ordeal ends up getting resolved, and now we have the reward, which is step 8 of the hero's journey. You mm-hmm. know, so what is there to say about the reward? What can we say?
Well, the reward, like, obviously the reward would be like him getting Meg back and him still being able to protect the people, right, against Hades. But at the same time, I feel like it would also, like I talked about, him understanding what it truly means to be a hero. Because we saw that dilemma earlier as he was talking with his father, right, Zeus. And he believes that he's done all like a hero should do, as like to protect the people and to defeat monsters. But only Zeus realized that he hasn't truly discovered what it meant to be a hero. And being a hero isn't necessarily about physical strength, but also about it, like internal growth, understanding, and like a mental understanding. And to me, that's the reward that he received through the whole ordeal, and that's what kind of led him to like receiving the reward of being able to go back to Olympus.
Yeah, and now we're getting to the road back, which is we're finally about to cross into the ordinary world, as in the challenge is over. Because remember, Olympus is no ordinary world. But here we get another personal dilemma, and because Hercules ends up not choosing to go to Olympus to stay with his loved one,
Yeah.
right? So that really shows you his character, like his commitment, his integrity, like, and just Hercules as a person through his whole like being taken out of his comfort zone and now properly being a hero, because it's not just about fighting monsters, it's about integrity and personal values, right? So finally now we're about to cross into the ordinary world, and step 10 is resurrection. This one, step 10 kind of has some elusive wording right here, because how would we interpret resurrection in the context of Hercules, considering it's during the road back? It's a hard one.
That is true. I think. I would say maybe resurrection in itself is like. I would say maybe it's him achieving what he wanted to begin with, which was he wanted to be ordinary. We kind of saw him mention that a little bit when he was talking with his loved one, where he was like, "Oh, what I would wish to be ordinary, just like you," and that's ultimately what ended up happening. Is that when he abandoned going to Olympus, he does lose his strength, right? And he does become officially a regular human being, but he gains what he wanted all along, which was to be happy with the person he loves and to accept it and fit in with the environment he's in. And to me, that's the resurrection of, I would say it's more of because he still, even though he lost his strength and he lost like what most people would think of makes him a hero, he's what he received, that like the resurrection of internal understanding that he's still a hero, because what makes someone a hero is like what's on the inside,
So
rather
true.
than what people see on the outside.
Yeah, very true. Now, guys, we're almost at the end of our hero's journey. The mission has been complete, and the journey is almost at its end. And so the hero returns with the elixir, step 11, and that's as simple as the challenge is over. So you have the beginning, the climax, and the end, and now we're at the end. And just like we said about the resurrection, Hercules is finally happy, which relates to the term elixir, because it's elixir of life, what's supposed to make you live a long time. And funny thing to mention here is that doesn't necessarily mean literally living a long time on Olympus. It's living a happy and fulfilled life and being accepted. And that's the hero's journey for you guys. Sometimes, in some cases, it does go back to step 1/12, where he gets another call to adventure. But as for Hercules' story, we can confidently say that he has had a happy ending after all. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you at the next episode. Yeah, so was that like good, or you wanna like add something?